These colors, the green colors and the yellow, are a bit too saturated, which are strong. So I need to reduce their color. So I'll select the grass layer because that's the one I want to work with. And I go to Image, Adjustments, and Hue Saturation. Last time we saw the curves, we saw the brightness contrast, and the auto color. Now Hue Saturation is used a lot in Photoshop, a lot. So it's best to remember the shortcut, which is Control U. So here, what can we do? We can change the saturation. If we decrease it, the color gets less intense. If we increase it, it gets more intense. So this is good for a painting, maybe. A painting, but not good for something realistic. So if you're adding a grass to an already existing image, it shouldn't be so strong. So you would reduce the saturation. Very important concept. Just to explain the other ones, I'm going to reset it back to 0 for now. If you change the hue, you would change the overall color, which is not a bad thing in this case. So it gave us a better, on my screen at least, it's a better representation, more artistic. And I can play a bit with the saturation. So I can uncheck the preview to see what I had before. This is okay, but I prefer this one. It's much more artistic. The lightness will make it brighter or darker. Okay, let's try 0 again just to compare. Yeah, I think I would go down maybe -15. Alright, so that's the final result from what I started with. You have an option called Colorize. If I check it, all of them will become one color. All the colors in my layer will become one color, which is not a good thing in this case. But it's good in case I wanted to take a new image and make it an old photo. Then that would be good. We'll see it later. But for this case, no, we want to keep the colors, so uncheck Colorize. So that's the grass, that's the soil. Now I need to create the sky. Should the sky be above the grass and the soil or below? It should be below because it's going to be in the back. So I'll select the background layer and create a new layer and call it sky. For now I'm going to use the brush for the sky, but later we're going to see how to use the gradient for that. Because the sky is not one single color. It's a gradation of colors, which is called a gradient. The top is the darkest and the bottom is the brightest. If you look out the window, you will see that you have something like this. So I'm going to use a soft brush for this. Right click and choose the brush. And just start somewhere over here with this. Now see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here and choose. You see I'm in the color. I want to get a brighter color, but I don't want to keep pressing here and selecting a brighter color, although I can. But it would take me some time. So I'm going to click on the arrow in the color palette and choose HSB sliders. HSB stands for Hue, Saturation, and Brightness. So if I go with the brightness, it gets brighter. So now this is a brighter color. So if I increase it even more and decrease the saturation, I will get something like this. So the closer I get to the horizon, the paler it's going to become, until it becomes close to white. Alright, so now I did this, but I see a lot of lines here and I need to remove those lines. How can I do it? You see the lines? I don't want to show these lines. I want to make it smooth. Yes, very good. So I would go to Filter, Blur, and this time Gaussian Blur. Gaussian Blur would let you actually increase the radius and see the difference. Without blur, it's like this. With blur, the colors are blended together. So you can play with the radius to get what you want. So that's actually not bad. Okay, now I don't want this part. I want to cut out this part from my whole image. So I want to use a tool called Crop, which we'll talk about in detail later. But for now, the Crop tool will let you select Now here you should not have any values now. Later on we'll have values. Alright, so the crop tool up here would let you select a part and press enter, and the image will be cut just to reveal this part, and the rest will be deleted. Okay, now I need some clouds. So new layer above everything else, because the clouds are above the sky, which I'll call clouds. And I'm gonna use, let's try I don't know, this brush here. See what it looks like. I need white. Alright, I'll keep this for the detail and then I'll change it. So I'm increasing here the brush size just to have some detail, something like this. Now I'm going to use the eraser tool. Look at the eraser tool. Increase the brush size and just make it soft. Make it soft and remove out some parts. Yeah. Yeah, just give me a second. Let me finish this. Alright, so that's maybe... I can add some detail by reducing the brush size. I can reduce the opacity of the eraser so that I don't erase by 100%. So it will keep something. Right? And therefore, get a much more interesting cloud. I can zoom over, Control plus, just to see that detail being played with. Alright, so there's one cloud. If I want to make another cloud, I'll press Alt and drag. Alt and move something will make a copy on a new layer. So this is, let's say, clouds 1. So 2 cloud layers. Now I don't want them to look exactly the same. So I'm going to distort. Edit, transform, distort. And I'll just go like this. And maybe press enter. And maybe Control T and rotate this a little bit, maybe to the other side. And place it here. So it doesn't look like I have to. Maybe I can use the eraser just to erase this part from this layer, because I don't want to have the 2 parts exactly the same. And then I can select the other one and just go like that, just to have some variation. So that's a nice cloud now. So these are 2 layers. I want to combine them as one layer. Who knows how? Clouds and clouds 1. I select the uppermost layer. I have 2 layers that I want to merge down together. Clouds 1 and clouds. So I select the uppermost layer and choose layer and merge down. Again, we use this a lot. The shortcut is Control E. It's a good thing to remember it. So once I do, this is just one layer now called clouds. So now I'll choose File, Save As, and this is very important now. Save As. Where am I going to save? For example, in Adobe. You can save anywhere you like, but remember where you saved. Here I have inside Photoshop a folder that I called My Samples, or My Work, or My Projects, whatever. And I'll call this, let's say, Nature Image. Now the important thing is to save as PSD as the file format, and not JPEG, for example. Why? Yes, very good, because the PSD will save the layers with you. So let's close this. Here, this is a JPEG, so it doesn't have any layers. When I created this image, it did have layers. Of course, this is not done in Photoshop. It's created in another software for 3D animation called 3ds Max. But I added the trees and the cars and the people in Photoshop. We'll see how this is done later. But originally it had layers as a PSD, but once I saved it as a JPEG, all the layers are merged down. This is good for if I want to send this by email, for example, but not if I want to edit the work that I was doing. So it's best to save as PSD, because then you would have access to all the layers again, and you can change those if you like. So next time we're gonna continue working on this image. That's why I saved it as a PSD.